This is Nashville. Today I'm Devin O'Day along with Lexi Carter, and PonceLaw is here in studio with Nina Parsley, one of the specialists. Okay, boss's day yesterday. Michael Ponce, best boss in the world, is that right?
That's true, absolutely. I'm confident that Michael Ponce is the best boss in the world because he lets us do an important service for the community, which is helping other people. And so we have the best jobs in the world because we get to help other people. We get to work for someone who genuinely wants to help people in our community as well.
That's the thing that I've heard about. They always say it starts at the top.
Right.
It starts, you know, his name is on the sign. And so everyone that I've ever met that's had any dealings with him or with anybody there, it's across the board. He's about the people that walk in that door. And that's the truth.
I tell people that all the time, that Michael is just genuinely a good guy, and so all the work that we do is that much easier because of that.
You don't always hear that about attorneys.
You don't. That's true.
That's not one of the first things that people say an attorney, that they'll tell you a couple of attorney jokes, and none of them are really nice. But you know what? You guys have changed the whole picture for me about attorneys.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. And it's funny you said that because a while back we won the Torch Award from the Better Business Bureau, and that's for ethical commerce, basically. And a whole bunch of attorney jokes went around that because it was a law firm winning an ethics award. But we strive really hard every day to make sure that we're providing that type of service to the community.
Give me an example of some of the cases that you've been handling. Is it mostly car accidents that you handle?
So I handle a combination. I do handle car wreck and car accident cases, but I also handle what's classified as employment law, which is basically, well, I like to say at PonceLaw, we take care of the entire family. So if you've been injured physically, we can take care of that. But if you've been injured financially, or what I call sort of a dignity injury, we can take care of that as well. And what I mean by that is if you've been discriminated against or terminated because of something that is essentially who you are, your gender, your race, your religion, because you have a disability, we can help stand up for your rights and protect you in that aspect too. If you've earned wages and performed work that you should be paid for, and an employer has denied you overtime improperly, we can help with that. And then, as people sustain injuries and have, just worked in the workplace, sometimes there's workplace injuries that we can represent as well. I don't handle the workers' comp injuries, but we handle that as well, and then Social Security disability also. So, we try and take care of everyone who's been injured in some fashion, whether it's physically or financially.
It really is a tough thing. I have a friend in another state that's dealing with an injury that she sustained at work, and it's caused immense trouble. And it was something that she reported to her employer. There was a problem with the floor, that it didn't have the right kind of rug or something to keep you from slipping, and the things that they cook there's a fine, I don't want to say it was a greasy spoon, but it was kind of a greasy spoon. Anyway, it was very slick, the particular tile of floor. She fell not once but twice, and then she kept reporting it, and they never changed. And then a customer walked in and they fell. And so there's some issues like, those are the kind of issues that we're talking about. Something that, it's not just somebody frivolously going in saying, I need some money for this, can you help me? You really help people that are injured.
We do, and we also do an investigation to make sure that there's some liability there, which is what you're talking about. So if a place of business has had multiple reports of a dangerous condition and then somebody walks in and gets injured, they really should be held responsible for that. And so that's what we're doing. We're making companies be responsible for errors that they make, and hopefully making it safer for everybody else in the meantime. But you're right, we're not going to file a lawsuit if it's a chance accident, there's no liability. But if there's an identified problem and an employer or a business owner fails to correct it, then we're going to make sure that they fix it so people don't continue to get hurt. And employment cases are like that too. If you're being denied wages or being treated differently because of your age or something like that, somebody has to stand up and say, it's not okay to do this anymore, to pave the way for everyone behind you. And work injuries, it's the same thing. So you can get hurt on a job physically, but there's lots of occasions, I've had lots of cases where a person gets hurt on the job, and then the employer retaliates against them for getting hurt on the job. And some of it is very egregious. Making people clean toilets with toothbrushes, making them lift the heavy objects that they know they can't lift, making fun of them. All things that are forms of retaliation and that culminate in a termination just because you get hurt on the job. And that's not legal either. In Tennessee, that's an actionable claim, and we can help get your wages and other damages if that happens.
I cannot believe in this day and age that an employer would do that. First of all, I know we work at a place that schools us consistently on how to treat each other. Things that used to be okay in the workplace, certain teasing and certain things that you used to kind of ignore and go, well, that's just the way it is. It's not the way it is, and things have changed, and you can't just say jokes to everybody. Our company's amazing as far as how they work with that. But you've really seen people who have been berated on the job?
There's people who are berated on the job. There's people who are harassed. There's people who are assaulted on the job. There's terrible, terrible stories that happen at work that if you would like to believe they're not true, but they are. And from all categories. I mean, I've seen people specifically told, you're not getting this job because you're Muslim. And then I've seen people specifically, told, well, you're too old to do that job. Or you're a woman can't do that job. I have a couple cases that are scheduled for trial in 2019 that involve those very issues. And in this day and age, a woman can do whatever job that she wants to. And we need to make sure that the employers understand that. And so that's one of the fights that we're fighting. And then we have the age-old, race claims that happen where people are still called, derogatory terms that you and I don't want to say on the radio, but that still happens to people. And I'd like to think it doesn't, but, and until that stops, we're going to advocate for those people and represent them and help them, one, find justice in terms of a financial recovery if they've lost wages or get their job back if they've lost their job, but also set the precedent that you can't do this to other people. And that's why I'm proud to represent those people because they really are going out on a limb. It's a very personal lawsuit, those employment lawsuits, and they're going out on a limb. Yeah, and they're putting themselves out there and standing up for what they know is right, but that doesn't make it easy. So I'm proud of the folks that I represent in that capacity.
It takes a lot of courage to stand up against an employer. It does, because jobs are hard to come by. We live in a town now where there are a lot of jobs available, but not a lot of jobs that pay a wage that can support you. So if you've got one that does, you're very reticent to blow the whistle. But whistleblowing is important, and it's not just about you, it's about a lot of other people at that point. It begs the question, Me Too. The Me Too cases, those are the hardest ones I would think to even come forward about. And you know that if you do blow the whistle on somebody, you're going to be dragged through the mud yourself.
It is. It's a very personal assault that happens, and that's why it's important that you have an attorney who understands those factors and will stand by you and with you and help you get through that process. But it's so, so important because I guess what you see with this Me Too movement is that for so long women thought they were the only ones that this was happening to. And so they didn't report it or they didn't do anything about it. And now what you really have with the Me Too movement is just the social support and awareness that this happened to a lot of women over a lot of different fields, a lot of different socioeconomic classes, and that there is a support base and a strength in that hopefully more women will come forward and assert their right to a workplace where they aren't sexually harassed or discriminated against because of their gender. I've handled a lot of sexual harassment cases, and those hold a soft spot for those women because I've had some very young women too that have stood up and said this is it, and it just makes me very proud. And they even some of those have done that before the Me Too movement. But I'm hoping now that more and more women will feel supported and like they can come forward and that employers will start listening to them.
There are a lot of women who are being treated poorly because they've waited, but it was a different day and age. I mean, there's a term now that we accept as just part of our lexicon, the term date rape. Before it became a term, it was something that just nobody talked about.
Right.
it was a date, so you were held responsible for your own actions. You got in the car, so it couldn't be rape.
Yeah, you wore that skirt, right?
Yeah, you wore that skirt. And you find that with the Me Too movement, and it's the first thing that I've ever seen where the women are just all being treated like a criminal.
Yeah.
You know, how dare you talk about this and take down a person in, and it's not just, and I want to also say it's not just women. That
It's not. I represent men who have been sexually harassed as well.
Because it does happen the other way.
I will tell you, some of the most disturbing cases I've ever handled have been male on male sexual harassment, which the accused basically classify as horseplay, but it's really not. And some of the things that happen in those workplace environments that men do to other men are really, truly terrible. But I've been dealing with that for a while. It is new in the news for all these victims to basically be re-victimized about why they didn't come forward. But in the field that I've been working in, I've seen that over and over again. And you do have to ask yourself, well, why don't women come forward? But there are just so many reasons why you wouldn't come forward when something like that happens. I've heard it from my clients. I've even experienced it myself, where you say, well, is it worth it to rock the boat? Is it really harassment? What do I hope to accomplish if I do report it? Will anything change? What if I report this and nothing changes? What if I report and I get terminated? There's all these concerns that folks have, and that's why there's attorneys who work in this area. That's why the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission is here. It's a federal commission that investigates harassment and discrimination. So that women and men who report harassment or discrimination can be protected during that process. But honestly, the sooner you report something after it happens, the more likely it is that your employer will be able to respond appropriately and address it. But I certainly understand folks who don't report right away, because a lot of times you're talking about women who have to help support their families. Some of them are single mothers, have to support themselves, and it's very risky. You mentioned a good paying job. Benefits a lot of times aren't all. If you have a job with that pays well with benefits, it's very hard to come forward and say, hey, this is happening. Another thing people deal with is guilt, like, did I somehow bring this on? Did I say something that made him feel like that was okay? Or did that text I sent come across wrong? Or did I laugh? I have a lot of people ask, well, she laughed at the joke. If it offended her, why did she laugh? Well, in a group setting, it's very difficult to stand out that way and not laugh or not respond or not joke around.
You brought up some really important things. It's not just women. And there are a lot of men who don't come forward. I think it's really hard for a man to come forward because of the shame. It's really tough. If you want a confidential place where you can find out if you have a case, PonceLaw.com, there's a 24/7 800 number that they use, and they carry the phone. We're going to find out about carrying the phone on a weekend. So who's got phone duty? Ponce Law takes that very seriously. We take traffic seriously too. Every 15 minutes, real-time traffic. Here's Richard Thomas. Wow, am I learning something? Ponce Law, Nina Parsley in studio with us. We talked about employment and Me Too, which is really important, but I want to find out, when it comes to an accident, we have car accidents. Every 15 minutes there's a new accident on our show. And we think about the trucking accidents and the car accidents, and when is it appropriate and when is the time to make the call to an attorney?
This is an interesting question because there's a lot of reasons for me to say right away, but I'll tell you a personal reason why I think as soon as possible is the right call. As soon as you're sure that you're safe and your family understands what happened and everything, is the time to call an attorney, because I myself had a wreck fairly recently. And even though I have all the training in the world on what to do, it was still a very alarming event. And I felt very sort of nervous and scared about what had just happened. And I talked to Michael, of course, because I was on my way to work. and it was nice just to talk to somebody through about, okay, well, have you done this, that type of thing. That's even though I know what to do.
When it unsettles your world, you feel violated in a weird way. Someone comes into your lane or you've had an accident. And should you call an attorney if you're at fault?
Well, Possibly, sure. We don't represent the folks who are at fault. But if you're at fault, basically, your first call needs to be to your insurance company because they will provide an attorney for you.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Because I think there are a lot of cases now, for instance, I mean, I had a wreck years and years and years ago, but someone didn't have brake lights and it was a rainy day. And technically, when they hit, and I didn't see any lights, and I was a young driver, so I hit somebody from behind.
Okay.
And so technically I'm at fault, but technically I'm not. You know, that's one of those weird places.
So it never hurt. We have a fantastic team, and it never hurts to call us just to see whether we can help you or not. If we can't help you, we have a long list of folks that can. And so if it's not a situation that fits our particular needs, then we certainly can tell you who can help you. One of the interesting things that I discovered in my wreck is that it's really easy for folks to kind of minimize what happened. You know, so the police officer, for example, who responded to my wreck, looked at one side of the vehicle and said, well, let's just do a short ticket. It looks like under $400 damage. But there was several $1,000s worth of damage, but he hadn't walked around to the other side. And I actually had to kind of argue with him a little bit to go to the other side, and he apologized later and was like, oh, you're right. There is extensive damage, but, you know, little things can happen that don't make sense. And so if you call an attorney, they can pull the police report and make sure that everything makes sense and that you're taken care of. And it's really important to go get checked out after a wreck because the adrenaline's going and you don't feel a lot of pain at that particular moment, maybe if it's not a catastrophic type injury, but it'll kick in later. And the safest thing is
adrenaline
get checked
saves
out.
a lot of pain, and then all of a sudden later you go, okay, I needed to do something.
Yeah.
You know.
You're right.
Well, we talked about calls. The phone. Let's talk about the phone. I call it the Ponce phone. It is 24/7. It is a 1-800 number that's toll free. And I heard a rumor that you were actually on your anniversary dinner and you had the phone.
I had the phone on.
Is that the truth?
That is true. It was my 16th wedding anniversary, and it was my phone duty, and so I went out, and it was actually a former client of mine had referred this lady as well, so I had a personal connection, so I might have gone anyway, but I happened to have the phone as well, and so I went out to Clarksville and met with a poor lady who had suffered a loss of a family member, so. It was very sad. We just went out the next night. It's okay.
But that kind of personal service, you just don't find just anywhere. I know, I'm not going to mention my lawyer. He's probably listening. I love you, John. But he's not going to be taking a call from his 16th anniversary. He's not going to be taking a call 24/7. There is not a 1-800 number 24/7 at anybody's office like yours. It's you do business differently at PonceLaw. I want to tell you, since I've met you guys, you do things differently.
It's important, and I think even at first I was kind of like, I wonder if this is really necessary, but I've met so many wonderful people on that after hours call that I wouldn't give it up at this point, even if Michael said, well, I don't think we need. I'd say, well, I think we do, because some folks are just unable to call during work hours. It's just difficult for them to do that. They have their own jobs, or it occurs to them late at night, or something happens early in the morning. And I think it's important to always be there for the community.
So accidents don't keep bankers' hours.
They don't. The call, the after hours call, the Ponce call that you mentioned that sticks in my mind the most is actually one that I received regarding a person who was incarcerated who had a slight altercation with the guard and ended up being paralyzed. And Metro ended up paying out a substantial sum on that. It was there was an approval of that as well, but he ended up being paralyzed and then subsequently lost both of his legs. And that call came in an early morning call, and that has been a meaningful. That client is so precious and dear to me that it's just been a meaningful relationship. That I would be so sad if we had missed that call.
And that's also one of those instances that you go in the list of things that you go to the drop down menu at PonceLaw.com. It may not say injury to an inmate leaving the jail. I mean, it may not say that, but it is an injury, and it's something that they didn't cause, and something that you don't even know if you have a case sometimes. But if you've been injured, financially, emotionally, or physically.
Yeah, I basically say if you've been injured in any way, call us, and if we can't help you, we'll help find someone who can. Because you're right, that was an excessive force case. It's not something that we handle, in mass quantity, but we do handle select cases like that. If you've been injured, we want to help you in some capacity.
That's just wonderful. Nina Parsley, our guest, and PonceLaw.com is the website. In the top right-hand corner, you will see that 1-800 number, and it says 24/7, and they mean it. And it may be a 16th anniversary dinner. And it's still, the client always comes first. It's amazing the way you do. Thank you for coming in.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. And I will say one of the other things we're doing right now is we're collecting materials for Veterans Day.
Wonderful.
So I just encourage folks to do that as well. There's a couple of sites. It'll be on our website where you can drop off materials, non-perishable goods, that type of thing. And so that's a firm thing that we're doing to help the community, and we hope that others will consider that as well in light of Veterans Day coming up.
That is November the 11th. And there are all sorts of wonderful things going on. I didn't know that you were doing. That is fantastic. So they can drop off things for veterans. What are some of the things that you need?
They basically are lightly worn coats, new packs of underwear, socks, undershirts, hats, and blankets. And the drop-off sites are actually with the Tennessee Valley Health Services, and we'll have those on our website as well as a comprehensive list of what folks can donate, and we're participating as well by bringing stuff to those sites.
That is huge. Thank you so much. See,
Thank
they're
you.
just good people. Good people. PonceLaw.com. Check it out and check that 1-800 number. Thank you, Nina Parsley.
Thank you.